we're doing a new setup where we're asking people to register for the event, the meeting. And what that does is allows us to take attendance, which is very helpful when we're having public meetings also.
Yeah.
So we need to show that people are participating in democracy. So welcome everybody who's joining us. Thank you for registering to join the meeting. And we're going to give it another minute to make sure everybody gets on board with this new process. But if Scott Daria can figure it out, I'm sure anybody can. Oh, I just got an ugly. Yes, Scott.
Thanks for the attention, Rob.
You're so welcome. All right. I am going to mute you. And Madam Chair, you can start the meeting, please.
Okay, Rob. It is 6:32 p.m. So I call this meeting to order. At this meeting, the Brockton Conservation Commission is being held remotely via Zoom in accordance with Governor Healy's open meeting provisions, updated in March of 2023. The temporary provisions extend certain COVID-19 provisions until March 31st, 2025. Real-time public comment can be addressed to the Commission via the Zoom virtual meeting software. If you wish to participate or to comment during the public input portion of the hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be recognized. If joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be available on the city's webpage. All votes will be done by roll call to ensure count accuracy. Please join me in welcoming our newest commissioner, Lily Green. Lily will be observing for a few meetings before voting, but will be included for roll call. Commissioners, please identify yourself by first and last name for the record so we can assure that quorum is met for the meeting.
Laura Beekler here.
B. Clay here.
Lily Green here.
Tarifa Mapp here.
Thank you. Rob, can you just check, because sometimes Peggy Curtis comes in not as a participant, and she has to be, not as a panelist rather, and she has to be promoted over sometimes.
I am looking for Peggy and I do not see her yet.
Okay, because my understanding was that she was coming.
And I have also made Kyle and Isaiah and Rode co-hosts, so they can also keep an eye out for her and promote speakers at will.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and for the purposes of roll call, I'm Joyce Boris. Okay, so let us begin.
There she is.
Oh, good.
Curtis, aye.
Peggy Curtis.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So we have our full commission here tonight.
Excellent.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. So the first item on the agenda will be meeting minutes from the meeting on July 19th. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review those minutes? Were there any questions, omissions, changes that need to be made? If not, then I would entertain a motion, please, to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from July 19th, 2023.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Beekler, aye.
Curtis,
Clay,
aye. Oh, sorry, Ruby. Mapp, aye.
Oh, Lily's not voting this right. Boris, aye. Okay, so I believe that's everyone, right? Ruby, did you vote?
I did.
Yes, we
Clay,
did.
aye.
Okay, fine. Then that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so let's see, the next item on the agenda. Oh, first, before we do the items on the agenda, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 continuances to the next meeting. And I believe did everyone get a email from Kyle about that? They are number 7, 549 Copeland Street, number 8, 710 Oak Street, number 9, 900 West Chestnut Street, number 10, 0 Hammond Street, and number 11, 455 Oak Street. So those 5 are being continued to the September meeting. I entertain a motion, please, to grant a continuance for those 5 properties.
I make a motion to continue item number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 to our next meeting, which I believe is September
September 20th.
20th. Thank you.
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Before I,
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Boris, aye. Thank you. They have been continued. Next item on the agenda will be number 20 Quincy Street, an extension of an order of conditions. Is the applicant available? 0 Quincy Street,
I believe so. Let me see. Yep. Mr. Mathers here.
Mathers?
Okay, there he is. He's been promoted.
Okay. Mr. Mather? Hello, I
Yes.
see you waving. Thank you. Would you like to make a statement about your extension request?
Just working with the plans right now, trying to get it up and running, but we haven't done anything yet. We haven't started. No construction.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a little overview of what the actual project is?
Oh, yes, we have a 5-story building going up there, 39 one-bedroom apartments.
Story, okay. Mr. Holden? Do you have? any-
Yeah, so I have a few other details I can add just for the commission's information. This is all found in my agent report as well, if you guys want to follow along. The original notice of intent was filed on March 25th of 2020. And it was issued an order of conditions on November 12th of 2020. So yeah, this notice of intent was for the redevelopment of a previously developed site to include the construction of a new 5-story 39-unit residential building with parking, utilities, and associated grading within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Anyway, so all this was approved originally back in 2020. The applicant is requesting a 3-year extension. I went out and visited the site on the 8th of August and confirmed that, yeah, no work has been done or even begun at this site. So considering that, my recommendation is that that we do issue the extended request for 3 years to allow them time to build the building. And I think the reason that this wasn't built initially was because they were finalizing the building plans. And I think at this point, the plans are mostly finalized. Mr. Mather can correct me and give us an update there. But I think at this point, they're about ready to begin the construction. And I think they're planning on beginning the construction this fall.
Yes, that's correct. We're in the middle of getting the plans put together now so that the building department can make a decision on our plans. Soon
So
as
they
that's done, we'll be building.
Okay. So those plans still have to go before the building department?
Yes. They're very extensive, so it's not something that happens
Right.
quickly like a single family. I mean, there's so many ABCs about it that it takes a lot. It takes 8 to 12 weeks just to even get them going.
Yeah, I'm sure there's stormwater, et cetera. Yeah. Okay,
So we're in the middle of it. We're trying our best.
okay. I'm not sure, Lisa, if there was an order of conditions that was actually issued, would there have been a plan at that time?
I don't know.
I think what they're discussing right now is kind of the more architectural aspects of the design versus the actual building footprint, which is where conservation would be more concerned. So I think it's some of those ins and outs.
Okay, but Mr. Mather, those conservation issues of the plans will not be changed at all, correct?
Correct. And we're not gonna change them at all. We think that everything was done right with your board and us. We figure we worked it out. Yes, they'll be the same. Nothing to deviate.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
How soon would we get to see a plan of how it's going to look? Parking lot, things like that.
I'm not sure. Give me
I can email one over soon.
you want us to email one to Rob May? Is that who we should send it to?
You can send it to Rob at planning or me at conservation at cobma.us.
US. Yep, I'll do that. We'll send it to you because you sent us that letter. We have it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've already kind of been in correspondence. Yes.
We'll send that back.
Sure. So, Peggy, so once I get that plan, I can upload that to the drive. But as far as the commission's concerned, as long as as Elise kind of alluded to, as long as they stick to that original kind of footprint plan, as far as the outside of the building and the footprint that they're going to be working within, the details of the building plan itself isn't extremely relevant. But I'll post that once they send that over.
Okay, and I do think there's a 2020 file online as well, right, in the drive?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I have all, yes, it's all in the file now. Yep.
Okay.
Sure. No.
Any questions at all? I entertain a motion then to extend the order of conditions for 0 Quincy Street.
I'll make a motion to extend the order of conditions for 0 Quincy Street.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to extend the order of conditions for 0 Quincy Street until, what is it going to be until? 2020.
26.
26, yeah. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Speaker, aye.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Boris, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Mathers.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the extension.
Okay,
You have a nice night.
thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 10 Peckham Avenue. I believe, do you know if a DEP file number is available for this applicant?
Yeah, there are DEP file numbers for the next 3. So the 2 notices of intent and the ANRAD.
Okay, I'm supposed to ask for each one, I think, as I go through.
Yeah, as we go. But yeah, I can read those off too.
And the abutters notifications as well. I noticed there were some labels in the file.
Yeah, yep.
Abutter notifications. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Scott Faria, hello.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commission members. Scott Faria from Holmgren Engineering, representing De Silva Enterprises. And we have a notice of intent before you tonight for a lot on Peckham Ave, kind of in the downtown area, right off of Court Street. It's a vacant lot. We're proposing to build a 2-family, a duplex style house. The reason we're before you, the property is bounded in the rear by the Trout Brook. So we have a wetland resource area, the top of Bank, and we also have riparian zones to deal with as far as buffer zones go. In addition to that, we also have a flood zone with a known elevation that runs through our property that's associated with the Trout Brook. So a portion of our lot, a good portion of our lot falls lower than the floodplain. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, in order for us to build on that property, we have to raise the property up so our living quarters, our basement, first floor, everything else is above the floodplain. In doing that, we're bringing in fill, so we have to come up with a compensatory storage area on the lot. So we're basically, to really oversimplify, if we bring in a 5-gallon bucket of dirt, we got to dig out a 5-gallon bucket of dirt somewhere else on the lot. So that's kind of the gist of our proposal. We have our limit of work at the 50-foot buffer zone to the top of bank, shown with a proposed silt sock. Everything will happen between that silt sock and Peckham Ave.
Mr.
I
Ferry,
think
do you have the map available? Are you
I
able-
do. Yes,
Do you think you might be able to show it so we'd be able to see it? Thank you.
that's always a loaded question, but I'm gonna try. All right. Now, do you see it?
Can you use your cursor? Oh, it's that one in the middle. Lot
Yes. Yes, okay. I always doubt that it's gonna show up, Madam Chair, so. All right, so Peckham Ave, Trout Brook is in the back of the property. Here's our two-family dwelling, a duplex style dwelling. The 50-foot buffer zone goes right through the middle of the property. That is our limit of work.
Mhm.
And as I said, Trout Brook in the back of the property.
And do you see the 100-foot? Is the 100-foot on there?
The 100-foot buffer goes right through the middle of the house. Starts right here, goes right through. And then in addition to the 100-foot buffer, we have this heavy line is the flood zone. So everything from the heavy line heading in a northerly direction is in the floodplain. From the heavy line south towards Court Street is outside of the floodplain. So
Mhm.
that's the heavy line right there.
Is that gonna be built on slab or is it gonna actually have a foundation?
No, it's gonna be a raised ranch type of a dwelling, so it'll have it's a 4-foot basement. That'll basically be actually, it's a little bit higher than existing grade, just so we make sure that basement will be above the flood elevation. So it'll be a few inches above the flood elevation. From there, they pour a 4-foot foundation wall, and then they frame another 4-foot knee wall that gets you your 8-foot basement that you would typically have. And then it's a typical raised ranch dwelling from there. So it's really the only kind of house you could build on this type of a property. If you tried to build a conventional home with 2 stories plus a basement, it just doesn't work. So this raised ranch type of a dwelling works good for that. And it also gives us the ability to have a garage pretty much at street level, so they can drive right into a single bay garage on both units. So in this case, the fact that it's in the floodplain doesn't really hurt the design all that much, Madam Chair.
As long as there's no flood.
Exactly.
I have 2 questions.
Hold on
so
just a
the
second, Peggy.
Basement, I'm
Peggy,
sorry.
Could you hold questions until after we've heard?
Oh, sure.
Thank
sure.
you. Thanks. Let's see. Just write it down. Don't forget it, okay? Okay. Any other plans that you care to share, Mr. Ferry? Any other?
That's the only plan we have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Holden.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, DEP has assigned a file number to this. It's 118-0820. And Scott's done a great job of kind of summarizing this. I don't really have anything to add to the site summary. Would you like to hear my recommendation?
Certainly.
Okay, so because there is the extra fill that's going to be added and then compensated for on this plan, I'm not comfortable giving a recommendation myself. So I'm kind of recommending that we outsource this to Beta for peer review. And yeah, I guess that's kind of my suggestion. And I have in my agent report, there's a little bit more detail there, but it's been mostly covered tonight already, so I'm not going to read that off.
Oh, I see that. Thank you. Peggy, you had a question? Or Commissioner?
Okay. You mentioned that it's in a flood zone. Are there sump pumps provided for in the basement spot?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sump pumps. You said
Oh,
it's in a flood zone, so will there be sump pumps?
I'm sure, and again, we've got, the basement is above the floodplain, but I'm sure there'll be provisions for a French drain and a sump pump more than likely. That, you know, it's kind of, I think more often than not, standard procedure at this point in during construction. So I'm sure there will be. And just one thing that I didn't mention, we do have an infiltration system proposed behind the house that will handle the runoff from the roof. It would also give give that sump pump a place to discharge and then infiltrate back into the ground, get the groundwater.
And my second question is, are there markers at the back of the property so the owner would be aware of the buffer zone?
I don't have them shown on the plan. I'll certainly do that, but I think that's usually one of your standard conditions. We have those big discs that we put on the rebar that we would typically put there. So I'll certainly add those to the plan for the next meeting, but we would expect to put those in. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ruby, Laura, any other commissioners, any other questions? Elise, do you have anything to add? Is Elise still here?
I am, yep. I don't have anything to add, and that, you know, Beta will get a scope and fee, or we prepared one, recently and sent to Kyle. We can get that forwarded over.
Okay, that's great. That would be the first step.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess we can't really do a whole lot until we've seen what Beta has to say.
I agree. So I think we'd like to ask for a continuance to your September meeting, if we may, Madam Chair,
Okay,
when appropriate.
okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I just want to make sure, I don't know that there's anyone from the public, but just asking if there's any public comment before we entertain
very
a
much.
continuance.
I often accidentally.
No worries.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this project at 10 Peckham Avenue?
I don't see any hands raised, Madam Chair.
Good. And one more thing, Scott, I'm glad that Peggy asked that about the sump pump, because if sump pumps are going to be installed, perhaps the outflow, those would be important to show on the, I would think.
Certainly, we would certainly introduce that into our infiltration system. So I'll certainly show that in addition to the roof drains going into that system. I'll show the sump drains also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I entertain a motion to continue 10 Peckham Avenue.
I'm sorry, Chairwoman. I think we have a public comment. I think Susan, I would like to speak.
Thank you. Could you, I'm sorry, I don't see my participant list up. Hold on. Actually, Scott, would you mind stop sharing?
Sure. There you go.
Participants.
We gave her the ability to speak. Susan, you're free.
Oh. Susan McIntyre.
Yeah.
Good evening, Susan.
Hi, sorry. Good evening. So I had trouble logging into the Zoom, and so I don't know if I can still address the issues with the one going in that's going to open up Debbie Road.
Debbie Road.
The Quincy Ave.
This was the last filing.
Oh. That was a lot.
Yeah. How is that going to affect like the traffic? We've got a lot of deer and wildlife that live in there. I know it's a wetlands. We have issues on this street already. Well, it may bring down the drug deals. I see, so the days I can work at home, I'm looking out my picture window and there are people doing drug deals on the corner.
Susan, can you give me the address of the one that you're,
Madam Chair, if I could just interject, I have that file that Ms. McIntyre is talking about. It's for the ANRAD filing that we have.
oh, that's the next item on the agenda.
Oh, I thought I missed it. Okay, all right, so I'll
Yep.
wait for it.
Yeah, it's 2 items down, 399 Quincy Street for an ANRAD filing.
There's a lot of
Okay.
stuff going on in Quincy.
Yes.
All right, I'll come back then and when you get onto that one. I thought I missed it. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's quite all right. Okay. Okay, so how are we doing for, I entertain a motion then to,
I make a motion to continue 10 Peckham Avenue until September 20th.
Second,
motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Beekler, aye.
Clay eye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
Boris, aye. Thank you. Okay, and number 4 on the agenda is 166 Ashland Street. It was a notice of intent. 166. So we have a DEP file number, you did say, Kyle?
Yes, the DEP file number for this is 118-0819, with no comments.
Okay, and the butters have been notified.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Ferry, it's also JK Holmgren.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, again. Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering, representing RJ Messina Incorporated for a project, Madam Chair, at 166 East Ashland Street. This project is, it's gone before the Board of Appeals. It's been before you folks a few years back for an ANRAD filing. So the wetlands line that's shown, which I will share on my screen now, if I may, Madam Chair.
Certainly. When you say the Board of Appeals, do you mean the zoning board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, the proposed use needed a variance, so it went to the ZBA. So now the next process in the whole site plan package is coming to you folks before we go to planning board. So as I said, it's on East Ashland Street, in abuts the Trout Brook on its right-hand property line. The wetlands line is pretty much the top of bank. It veers out in a couple of locations, but primarily it's the top of bank. Again, that was approved by you folks a couple of years ago with an ANRAD filing. So if we move on from that line, Madam Chair, what we have is a bunch of contractors' storage units. We have primarily in the middle of the property, we have a roadway coming in off of East Ashland Street that circles around the units, heads back out onto East Ashland Street. We have a series of drainage facilities proposed, a large infiltration basin right on the side of the roadway that will handle most of the roadway. And then to handle the roof runoff, we have smaller recharge systems at each of the proposed buildings. As I said, the line has been approved. The 100-foot buffer zone falls right here on the edge of the easternmost building. The 50-foot buffer zone being right at the edge of the parking, then the 100-foot buffer zone. So this portion of the roadway is within the buffer zone. The entrance, a small portion of it is within the buffer zone. Most of the site falls outside of your jurisdiction, outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Obviously, everything's connected. The drainage is all connected and ends up coming within your jurisdiction. But that is that line right there, Madam Chair, that I'm walking along. That is the 100-foot buffer zone to the Trout Brook. So again, similar to the other one, this one's certainly a complicated enough project. We certainly expect this one to be sent out to beta for a review. So this is really just more or less a kickoff introduction meeting, I would say, Madam Chair.
So that infiltration basin that's over along the driveway, that is really
Yes,
pretty close to that's pretty close to the 25, huh?
it is. I'd love to zoom up if I could, but how do I zoom up, Matt? Oh, right here. Let me see if I can zoom up a little bit, Madam Chair. Thank you for your patience. So it is the 25-foot buffer zone, the emergency overflow, which would be used if the basin fills up under a greater than 100-year storm event. All of these basins, you always want to have an overflow so the water will still get out of the basin and not flood in the abutting property. So this hatched in area right here is the emergency overflow. That's right up against the 25-foot, the 25-foot buffer zone. And then the basin itself, the edge of the basin is essentially at the 50-foot buffer zone.
Okay. How far is this from North Main Street? Or from
Oh,
Montello?
it's
Or from Montello?
it's a good distance down. The nearest street, if you continued to your right, looking at my plan, Madam Chair, another 300 feet or so puts you at North Carey Street in the Carey Plaza there, the Sidelines Plaza on the right-hand side. So yeah, the abutting property, I think is a vacant piece, and then right next to it is the shopping plaza. So it's kind of down on that North Carey Street end of town.
And what kind of clients do you think would be using the facility? Would it propose?
Yeah, I mean, we're calling it a contractor's park. Essentially contractors use them for storage, just to store materials that they need, electricians, plumbers, things like that. There, as part of the conditions of approval at the Board of Appeals, there are to be no automotive repair or auto body facilities on the site, no repairs that to take place on the site. So that's already been made clear through the ZBA, and it'll be enforced by the building department. So it's really just a contractor's yard. It'll have a small office in each of the units, and then just an area to, as I said, just to hold materials overnight until you get to your next job.
And this is Mr. Messina's, is that correct? It's owned by Mr.
That's correct, Ross Messina.
Agent Holden.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have anything to add to the site description as Scott laid things out, but just to reiterate, this is a larger project, and the concern more so is the stormwater piece of this rather than the wetland resource impacts here. So my recommendation is that we have the beta come out and review the site specifically for the stormwater angle or aspect of this site.
And currently it is wooded, is that correct?
I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, Madam Chair, so I could be wrong, but I believe that at some point 40 years ago, it was owned by the city, and it was some type of a DPW garage use. So on the property, there are some concrete slabs that had buildings on them before. So right now, it's basically a vacant site, where all the buildings have been demolished and raised over time. As long as I've been around, it's been vacant and not used. But as I said, it was owned and used by the city at one point, I believe, back in the 70s, Madam Chair.
So there'll be a fair amount of digging up and, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, it's not a pristine area. There's just a lot of scrub brush growing and a tree here and there. A good size land tree buffer around the residential properties that front on East Ashland Street. So there is a landscape buffer in that area that we'll be keeping. But on our site, there is really no valuable vegetation on our site at all, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do. Was this formerly a brown spot or brown site?
Brownfield?
Brownfield, that's it, thank you.
Not to my knowledge, no.
I do know where this site is. It's near the CVS and the Family Dollar. CVS used to be there. I think it's
Correct.
priced right.
Hmm.
It is overgrown right now. How many stories will this building be? 1, 2?
They're just one story buildings.
Mhm. And there's something I heard on the news this evening. This year we received 5 times the amount of rain that we did last year. So how much does that overflow handle?
Again, it's a little bit tricky with the drainage calcs, but the way all of these basins, whether it's an infiltration basin like we have behind the building, or a surface basin, a detention pond, we can call it. Those are all designed to hold the 100-year storm event, which is a little over 7 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. So most of the time, all of these rainstorms that we've been getting frequently, we're not getting 7 inches of rain. We've had a few where we've got 3 or 4 inches of rain in a hurry, but we're not getting over a 100-year storm event back to back to back. So these basins are designed to hold that 100-year storm event. In addition to that, they can certainly hold a series of these smaller storm events that we've been having. So the basin is designed to infiltrate. So the water should go down and should not be spilling over that emergency overflow unless it's more than a 100-year storm event and it just can't handle all that rain. But under normal circumstances, even the circumstances we've been having the last year, that emergency overflow would not be put in use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I correct? It says proposed office. Looks pretty close to the 25-foot. Would it be difficult to get around that, to be able to construct? Well, even the overflow spillway and everything. How do you construct all of that, being so close to the edge?
It's really right at grade, Madam Chair. So it's not a big excavation. There's really not that much work that has to go on to construct that little that office building. So we'll have no problem. If I can scroll down to the erosion plan. Again, we've got the erosion control limit of work right up against. No, it's kind of all hatched in here, but right up against the 25-foot buffer zone. So we'll have no problem keeping the construction outside of that limit of work and outside of your 25-foot buffer zone.
And I'm sure this is something that that Beta will be reviewing as well. So
Correct.
okay. Commissioners, any other commissioners have any other questions? Okay. Has Beta already submitted a
Scope and fee?
scope and fee? Thank you.
Yes, yep, a scope and fee has been submitted to the commission to be passed on to the applicant.
Yeah, I've received them. I was waiting until after the commission vote before I forwarded those on, so I can send those out tomorrow.
Okay. So I entertain a motion, I believe, to continue this till the next meeting, correct?
Yes, please, Madam Chair.
Okay, I entertain that.
I'll make a motion to continue 166 East Ashland Street to the next meeting, September 20th.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Before I.
Clay eye.
Curtis, I.
Sorry,
Sharifa?
Colleen, did you guys do public comment? I'm not sure if I missed.
Sorry. We'll wait for this vote. We'll wait for the vote. Hold the motion.
Yep.
Attendees, are there any attendees that would like to speak to this project? The project at 166 East Ashland. Thank you so much, Isaiah.
Problem.
I don't see any hands, Madam Chair.
No, I don't either. Okay, thank you. So the motion is there. Roll call vote, please. Sorry.
Before I.
Clay eye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Boris, I, motion carries. Thank you. We will see you next month, Mr. Ferry, on that one.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is another Quincy Street, 339 Quincy Street, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. DEP number, Kyle, you did say was there. Butters notification is there as well.
Yes, a couple things here on the administrative side. So, firstly, the number on the agenda is the incorrect number. I made a typographical error when I was typing this out. So it should be 339 Quincy Street rather than 399.
Thank you.
So going forward, we will be referring to this by the correct number 339, and I'm going to adjust that in all of our files that we use as a commission. Finally, yes, a DEP file number was issued. It is 118-0821, and DEP did have technical comments, so I'm going to go ahead and read those off here.
Thank you.
So DEP technical comments are: the ANRAD only requests the confirmation of the bordering vegetated wetland boundary. The narrative describes two streams on the parcel, one in the center of the parcel and one to the eastern limit of the parcel. Streams have inland bank and land underwater associated with them. If work is proposed near the streams in an NOI, inland bank and land underwater will need to be delineated and confirmed at that time. Additional information should be provided to the Conservation Commission in the manner in which they require, as well as to Mass DEP via email to andrewpoint@mass.gov. Okay, and that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Farrier.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I'm going to try to share my screen again. All right, as Mr. Holden said, it's we have a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Our property is on Quincy Street, just down the road from the school, which is across the street, and it is abutted kind of on the side of us by Debbie Road and Bates Road, also Irene Circle. There's a real large housing development here that goes back out onto to Court Street, I believe. So that's where we stand. We have the property. It's about 14 acres. It's a large piece of property. It has two distinct BVWs or wetland resources that run through the property, which we have shown. It's a couple of streams that go through the property, actually. So this is the BVW associated with the stream. It's been flagged by Ken Thompson at 5 wetlands. So this is really the very first step, Madam Chair, in figuring out whether or not we can develop the property. So the wetlands kind of become as important or more important than the property lines itself. Once we get these wetland lines approved, then we can start laying in buffer zones and deciding if it makes sense to try to propose some roadways and get a comprehensive design, in which case we would obviously have to be back before you with a notice of intent and in front of the planning board with definitive subdivision plan. So this is really the first our first shot at the plan. In no way is it any kind of a development plan. So I don't really have any answers if those come up as to what's going to happen out there or how many houses or what kind of houses or anything like that. It's just to get these resource areas approved by the commission so we can hopefully proceed.
Mhm.
So I think in this case, Madam Chair, we have the same thing. Beta would be going out there to review the line. If they have any issues with individual flags, then typically we try to get a meeting with our botanists and Beta's representative out in the field, and they can kind of hash out the adjustments that they feel need to be made, and then we update the plan and get you a revised plan. So that's I'm assuming that's where we're going to go with this one, Madam Chair.
Mr. Ferry, how would you respond to the thing from DPW? If it's your request was for BVW delineation, would you expect to have it fully delineated, or those other things that were stated by DPW, so you'll know for sure exactly what you have?
To be honest with you, in this case, Madam Chair, in Brockton, the BVW is more restrictive to us than the bank is. The bank is somewhere within the BVW. So having a 15 and a 25-foot riparian zone to the bank is not as restrictive as the 25-foot buffer to the BVW. So while it's certainly a resource area, and when we go out there and do a more comprehensive survey, we can locate the top of bank. But at this point, the top of bank, again, is going to be well within that BVW. So I don't know that we would need to address that at all, Madam Chair. And we're certainly not planning on doing any work in the resource areas at all. So to answer that part of DEP's question, we wouldn't be looking for that, I don't believe, Madam Chair.
Are the requirements more stringent for what can be done if?
Yeah, there's restrictions as to how much, not so much buffer zone work, but if we, just for example, if we were looking to fill a wetland, there's more restrictions if you're looking to fill the banks of a stream. There's a lot more habitat studies and things like that that need to take place as opposed to just a regular BVW. So I kind of feel like that's what DEP was hinting at. If we're looking at doing any kind of wetlands crossings, we're definitely going to need to establish the bank. But at this point, I don't think we're going to go down that road, Madam Chair. And if we did, we would certainly have to come back and get you to approve that line. So.
Okay. Mr. Holden.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Faria did a great job kind of summarizing this. Just kind of to reiterate the process, this is the kind of first draft as far as what the resource delineation looks like from their perspective. We're going to get this peer reviewed by Beta is my recommendation to make sure all the flags are in the correct locations, and we can have a dialogue back and forth to just so we can all agree what's there. And then after that, the applicant can then look at the agreed upon maps and then decide if development is possible, depending on what they're interested in doing. So my recommendation is that we have Beta peer review this and review the delineation.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
I have a question. What is the zoning for this plot of land?
It's zoned residential.
So that's what would be proposed, would be residential?
Yeah, it's single family zoning in this area.
How would you get a road in here? I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I mean, just looking at it, not that we're going to be using those, but there's a couple of points of access off of Quincy Street. There's a point of access off of Charlotte Street and also off of Debbie Road. So there's 4 different ways you could possibly get into the property.
No.
Thank you.
And that property is in the process of being sold, or is this an evaluation done to determine the value of the property before it's sold?
I believe it's an evaluation at this point, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners, any other questions? Are there any abutters, any members of the public that would like
yes, we have a few, so I will promote them. Scott, would you mind closing out of the map, at least for now, so we can get everyone promoted to speak, and then we can bring the map back up if necessary.
Certainly, thank you.
So I've got 3 that I'm going to promote. Do you want me to, Madam Chair, do you want me to do like one at a time, or
Yes,
all 3? Okay, so the first one here is Sam Andred. So I'm going to promote Sam to panelist. All right, Sam, you are promoted to panelist and able to speak. Thank you.
but muted? Sam, can you unmute yourself, please? Hello, Sam?
We can maybe just leave him in the room for now, or her, sorry, if I assumed, and promote the next person, and then if Sam comes back, they can be free to speak next. So the next one is Susan McIntyre, so I'm going to promote Susan. All right, Susan, you've been promoted and free to speak. Thank you.
Oh, okay, so I don't know if Sam realized it did this whole other thing I had to click on and then it moved over, so maybe if they, next time they come back in. So, coming in from Debbie, so it's gonna be single family homes moving in there?
Nobody knows yet. They're just delineating the property to see what potentially it could be
Right.
used for. It's a
But
very,
that-
very first step
That's
of
what it's zoned for.
development of any kind. Yeah,
And they don't know for sure if they would be opening up the end of Debbie Road?
I believe they don't know until everything is delineated exactly what can be done. Please, Elise or Kyle.
Yeah, I can kind of speak to this, Madam Chair. So yeah, what's before the board now is just a confirmation of the resource boundaries. So we're not looking at an actual development plan of any sort. So nothing, no details as far as what the property owner is wanting to do is involved in this in any way. All we're doing here is looking at a map of the parcel and basically drawing lines and say, this is where the wetland resources are. And then we're going to confirm that those lines are ground truth. And that's all the process that we are doing before the commission currently. And that's what the ANRAD application is. So this is the ANRAD application. If they decided that they wanted to take this map and do a development, they would have to come back at a future date with a different filing, a notice of intent filing, and that would be where we would approve or deny a specific development. So right now, we're not looking at any sort of development. We're just looking at the resource lines on the map.
Okay, and just, I mean, I know that there is a ton of wildlife that lives there. So it is kind of concerning because we do have deer and baby deer, which I do fight with to keep them out of my garden. But there are times when we hear the coyotes, but the neighbors here did buy, we all bought here because we have kids and we're on the cul-de-sac. So I know that they're just assessing it but I do my degrees in environmental science, and I think that the amount of property there and the streams that are back there, I don't know. I don't see how they're going to be able to do this because we had to put a French drain around our house because of the flooding, because the water table's so high around here. So again, that's without messing with the ecosystem that's there, pretty harshly to dig all that up and dig down that deep to build. I think there's going to be an issue, and there's 3 deer outside right now. So anyways, all right, so we'll be notified again when the next meeting comes up for this, right?
When the next, like, if there is an NOI file, there will be another round of a butter notification. As far as will you be notified the next time that this agenda item, the ANRAD, no, the butter notifications have already gone out, and they only go out like once per filing. So you can watch the agenda and see when this agenda item is going to be up at the next meeting or the meeting after that. And that's how you would track this specific ANRAD filing. But in the future, if there were that notice of intent filing, you would get another round of a butter notification.
Okay, and then what's the filing number? Can you give that to me again so I have the right?
Yeah, give me one moment. I can read that back.
Appreciate
Okay,
that.
so the file number is 118-0821, and that's for this ANRAD filing.
ANRAD filing, okay, and I'll just keep following that on the site.
And just as a point of notification, of curiosity, do the DEP file numbers change? Like if it goes then to an NOI, is that a whole new file number? It does, it changes.
It's a whole new, yeah, it's a separate filing essentially. So it would be a different file number, correct?
Okay, good.
Okay.
Any more questions, Susan? I mean, they'll literally be digging up soil to take a look at the soil types and looking at plants and, doing a lot of careful analysis to see what's there.
All right, thank you.
And I guess just Susan, before you go,
Yeah.
one last comment. That report that Beta will put together, kind of detailing their delineation, their findings, that will all be public. So you will be able to see that once that report's put together.
Oh, all right, okay, great, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay, and then the last one here is Barbara Lindsay. I'm
I
going to
think
promote
Sam
Barbara.
I think Sam has has
Yep,
been
sure.
unmuted. Sam Andre? Maybe not. Kyle, if you,
Would you like me to promote Barbara Lindsay?
I don't see that Sam is responding.
Okay. Okay, Barbara has been promoted. Oh, it looks like Sam has typed into the chat that there are mic issues. So Sam, while we listen to Barbara, if you want to maybe type up something into the chat, we can read that for the record and just get you on the record for that. So if you want to do that, we'll come back to you in a moment. Thanks.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Hi, welcome.
Hi, good evening. I just have two comments that I'd like to make. One is I did previously send in a letter of concern to the commission in regards to 339 Quincy Street in regards to the notice of intent. And I just wanted that to be on the record.
We don't have a notice of intent right now, but you mean as far as this ANRAD is concerned?
We received the abutters notice.
Okay, and you sent a
In re-
letter?
I did.
It's in the file,
Oh,
Madam
it is
Chair.
in the file. Okay, we'll make sure that we see it. I didn't notice it in the file when I was going through it.
Okay, my second comment would be, I know Kyle said he's gonna make some administrative changes in regards to the reference as it was coming up as 399 Quincy Street instead of the correct 339. My only concern was that it went into the Brockton Enterprise as a public notice with a reference of 399 Quincy. So to the public eye, we did get notices through the mail to abutters, but I did want to just point that out.
There must be some mechanism to send in a error correction, I would think, to the paper. Kyle, could you check into that?
I can offer that there isn't really a mechanism to adjust without doing a whole new basically re-notification of the legal advertisement. With that said, and this could be double checked by Kyle or Isaiah or Road, as far as that legal advertisement goes, it generally also references the map and lot number. I wasn't sure how Brockton did it. So if there is concern that the legal notification isn't sufficient due to that number error, that might be something we want to confirm or discuss with legal as far as concern on that regard.
Mr. Ferry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it just, understanding that the number got boxed. In Brockton, for vacant land, there is no street number. So this
Perfect,
isn't
yeah.
399 Quincy or
Zero.
339 Quincy, it's plot 339 Quincy. There is no street number. So when you look at the abutting properties, they're, 96 Quincy Street. So if you look at it and say, wow, it's 390 Quincy Street, that's down the other end of town. That's not what this is. This is plot 399 Quincy Street or 339. I'm doing the same thing, but it's a plot reference until a house is built, until there's a house, a building permit application pulled at the building department, nothing gets a house number. So, really, if somebody's looking at the legal ads and just looking at a plot number, nobody really knows what the plot numbers are. You just know what your street address is. And in this case, this is 0 Quincy, like 25 other properties on Quincy Street as 0 Quincy. So I'm not, and then again, all the abutters were legally notified. Obviously, they're all here at the meeting. So I don't know that there's any kind of a legal issue with the notification. It was posted, it was, and as I said, everybody has been notified. So, but we'll certainly do whatever you folks comfortable with, or whatever the legal department feels we need to do. It's not going to get closed tonight anyways, Madam Chair, so if it,
I know.
you know,
Yeah.
if it-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kyle, do you think you could check into what action might be taken as far as if we could just, you know,
Just to be sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I can look into that.
yeah, maybe it's just a simple correction since it is not really a lot. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Are there
then Sam has typed into the chat.
I
So I
didn't,
can read that. So basically, there are two things. Let me see here. So Sam says sewage issues, which the council from 2004 had concerns about, and there's a little bit more detail in this other message. So I'm going to read that one next. There was a plan of the same design made on April 2004. Are there any changes? There were sewer issues raised by the council at that time. So this is also in the file. Barbara, the last person who spoke, submitted these old plans that were from this original filing in 2004. So those are in the file here. These are plans that will be made available to beta to review as we go out and do the delineation. So anything that was raised as a point of concern back then will be at least we'll be aware of that as we do this second round of kind of review. So that's, I guess, what I've got here.
okay. So that,
Appreciate that.
yeah, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then before we move on, Sam has another comment here. He says, my concerns are too many to list right now, the abundance of wildlife, traffic, etc. Sam, if you want to type out a letter to the commission, you can type that out and then send it to me or the planning department at Brockton. And we can get that just added to the record so the commission can review that between this month's meeting and like the next time that this comes up. So you can email that to me at conservation, the word conservation at cobma.us. That stands for City of Brockton, Massachusetts. Alternatively, you can just send it to City Hall, the planning department, and I will get it that way too.
Good. So we really don't have any historical plans. Basically, we have just the map of the actual site, correct? I was just looking back to see if I could see any historical plans.
Yeah, so the plan that they're referring to from 2004, it's just it's a delineation that was done back at that time. So yeah.
I just didn't see it here. Okay, I'll have to check for that afterwards. Thank you very much. Okay. We appreciate the fact that you're concerned about Brockton's very sensitive areas, truly. Commissioners, questions, comments? I entertain a motion then to continue this to the next meeting in order to give time for beta to review the NRAD.
I make a motion to continue 339 Quincy Street to the September 20th meeting.
Second.
Motion to continue 339 Quincy to the next meeting in September has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Before I.
Play I.
Curtis, I.
Snap, I.
And Forrest, aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Holmgren. And the next item on the agenda, Mr. Ferry, is 940 Belmont Street, fueling station at the VA.
Correct. Thank you again, Madam Chair. Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering, for the VA hospital. I'm going to try to share my screen again, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask Rode to tell Rob May that I had good luck sharing my screen at all 5 of my hearings so he can get off my back about that. So what we have, Madam Chair, the VA hospital, it's as everybody knows in the city, it's a large facility. There is a wetland system that runs along the eastern property line, way over on the side of the property that runs from Belmont Street and kind of heads in a southerly direction towards West Chestnut Street and eventually goes to West Bridgewater and out to the Atlantic Ocean eventually. So it's kind of a large wetland area. In this case, the map that I'm showing you right now kind of shows a big chunk of the VA facility. Just to get your bearings, way off to the right would be Belmont Street, and way off to the left, this access road is off of West Chestnut Street. So if you entered off of West Chestnut Street, there's kind of a landscaped island, and you can fork around to the right. And we've had a couple of filings before you folks recently around Spadea Pond, which is this area right here, which, as we said, is a beautiful resource that they have there, a pond where the patients at the VA actually go there and fish at lunchtime. There's a beautiful boardwalk around it, so it's wheelchair accessible. So that's right in that location. And what we're proposing tonight is a fueling station right in this circled area here, Madam Chair. And I'm going to scroll down to some more detailed plans, but right here, so that this plan doesn't really show that Spadea Pond, but if you continued past Spadea Pond, this is kind of the industrial end of the VA facility. There's a laundry facility, some maintenance buildings, the furnace room, all of their utilities, all the meat and potatoes of the whole VA facility happens over here. So it's kind of the industrial end. There's a large water tower on the facility. So what the VA would like to do is to install basically a very small gas station, a fueling system right here in this area that I'm showing. It would be a 1,500 gallon above ground fuel tank, and it would just be to fuel their vehicles. They have a lot of vehicles on site. They do a lot of laundry on the site that they bring to all of the VA facilities. There's transportation for the veterans to pick them up from home and bring them to their appointments at this facility. So they have a large fleet of vehicles, and it doesn't make much sense to stop at Cumbies every morning to fill all these vehicles up. So they're hoping to put a fuel area right here. So in doing that, we have to come up with this roadway system, which is kind of highlighted in gray. So the trucks would come off of Pilgrim Ave, sweep around, fill up right here at the fueling station, and then continue out back onto Pilgrim Ave. Of course, the reason we're before you folks, we have a BVW associated with that stream that we're talking about. For the most part, the stream is a pretty linear stream. It doesn't vary all that much from the banks of the stream. As luck would have it, in this location, there's a giant hand that sticks out from the wetland area. This wetland area here, that gives us a buffer zone in resource areas that pulls us into your jurisdiction. Again, looking at the whole campus, this kind of industrial area in the back here, there's really no other place we can put it, Madam Chair. They have existing fuel tanks about 300 feet down the road that once this is approved and under construction, they'll be coming to you folks to discontinue the use of those fueling stations. And those stations are pretty much right on top of the wetlands. So we'll be looking to get rid of that and have a more safe, modern fueling area right in this location that'll give us a little bit more room away from the resource area. So this is a plan they really feel like they need to continue serving the veterans on the property. And as I said, this is really the only place we can put it and have the proper vehicular turning radius to get fueling trucks in and out safely and kind of away from all the patients and visitors and employees of the facility. So this is the location. We've been going back and forth with Beta for months, doing a lot of different work, trying to come up with the best design that we can, drainage wise and grading wise. We feel like we're, at the very last hour, we're right down to the wire with Beta and feel like we're pretty much settled on the vast majority of issues, and that we have a design that we feel you folks could approve after discussion, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I did notice that you're submitting a request for relief for an infiltration basin to be constructed at least 50 feet. Do you have, can you show that on the plan?
Yeah, so it's this plan here, Madam Chair, it's again, we don't have a huge area of roadway that we're building, but we are building this roadway right around here so the trucks can get in and out. We have a canopy with that amount of new impervious area, and also the existing impervious area, the facility being an older facility, there's large portions of it that don't have any modern drainage. They certainly don't have any stormwater management components associated with the existing drainage. So we've taken it as part of this project to have a large retention pond in this area here. And because of the grades on the site, the grades of Pilgrim Ave and Beacon Road, we really had no other place to put it, Madam Chair, but right here, closer to the wetland area than certainly we would have hoped, and I'm sure closer than you folks would like. But the reason for the waiver, the DEP stormwater management guidelines suggest that you hold a 50-foot distance from a BVW to that infiltration basin. And in this case, we just can't make it happen. So we're within that 50 feet, and we would be asking the commission to grant that waiver. Again, it's this section of the VA. It is way in the back. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It won't have any impact on any kind of groundwater. We're certainly not impacting any abutters or any residential property. So I think we feel comfortable in asking the commission for it. We certainly wouldn't ask it under a residential use, but in this situation, we feel comfortable in asking you folks for that waiver, Madam Chair.
So that retention pond would be used for any runoff that would come from the actual fueling center.
Exactly, in a good section, a little bit of Pilgrim Ave right here where my cursor is, coming down to our fueling station, up along Beacon Road. So basically this whole circle here, Madam Chair, which, as I said, currently doesn't have a modern stormwater system. We're going to introduce all of that into our drainage system that meets all the stormwater guidelines for deep sump catch basins, sediment forebays, rip-wrapped areas. So we're really cleaning a large area of stormwater and making sure you end up with clean water, both infiltrating into the ground and eventually discharging out to the wetland, Madam Chair.
And then I believe I read in Beta's report, I believe I read that the applicant has requested relief of the required 50-foot setback from the wetlands. Revised drainage calculations show that 1 foot of freeboard will be provided. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, so the freeboard, Madam Chair, it's, an engineering term. It's basically where the pond discharges out to the wetland. How much space between that discharge and the top of the pond before it would overflow. So the discharge point is basically to handle the 100-year storm event. So in this case, we have 1 foot of storage of freeboard is what it's called, 1 foot of storage above that 100-year flood elevation. So it's kind of just an added buffer that is put into the designs. So you try to get a foot of freeboard on these situations, just to make sure you're not having a flooded pond. So that's what Beta was looking for, and we were able to give that to them. And again, by doing that, it basically requires you to build a deeper bathtub than you would typically have. So you add a foot to the depth of the pond, which kind of stretches out the area a little bit, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Holden?
Yeah, I think Elise is going to kind of review Beta's recommendations for this project.
That's great. Okay,
Yes,
that's fine.
certainly. Yeah,
I don't see Lisa's face. Where are you?
I'm here, I swear.
Thank
I
you.
haven't left. So yeah, thank you, Kyle. Essentially, what Scott had put forth is pretty accurate as far as there has been a lot of back and forth, a lot of debate. And I do think that we've kind of made it to the final, nearing the final edge here. from kind of some recent discussions as far as, ongoing today, some last minute things to really try to work this out and get this wrapped up. My understanding is that there's one outstanding issue relating to TSS, which is total suspended solid removal rates. So they're required to meet an 80% for the stormwater standards due to the increase in the impervious surface, essentially. So they're at a 70% right now, and we had kind of gotten to a point where the applicant had suggested street sweeping as to get a credit to basically get up to that 80%. Beta does not recommend that street sweeping is put forth as something that can be used as a credit, given that it is in long term, it's a lot of work to be done in perpetuity, and it's hard to monitor. So it was Beta's recommendation that not be the way to go about it. With that said, though, all the other outstanding concerns have been addressed. So given that it's such a minor issue, it could, and this isn't something that is traditionally done, but where we've gotten to in the history of this project, the commission could consider the issuance of an order of conditions pending the receival of some, of a plan and supporting calculations, just documenting that they've reached that 80%. It's a small window that they kind of have to meet, that, it's only 10%, but it is required to meet the stormwater standards. So with respect to the fact that this has been an ongoing thing that we've worked real hard to get here, if the commission felt comfortable and the applicant felt as though that was something that they could easily put forth and address, that is something the commission could consider. However, if the commission was not comfortable, you could always do a continuance to get the last bits hashed out. But that is kind of where we stand right now as far as the review goes. All of the other 50 comments have been taken care of. It's really just this one. So I'm not sure if Scott wants to add anything to that, or if the commission, has
Exactly how close is the edge of that 4-bag to the edge of that retention pond to the wetland? What is, I just can't see the line.
Yeah, the pond itself is about 25 feet. The limit of work is closer to 15 feet at its closest point, Madam Chair.
15 feet, yeah.
Yep.
To the wetland.
At its closest. And and just to answer to Elisa's comments about about all the back and forth, that 70% to 80%, she's correct. We're chasing that last 10%. And if I can just show you folks, I always get nervous when I'm zooming up, but I'm going to try anyways, Madam Chair. There's what they call a first defense unit right here, proposed first defense treatment unit, which is essentially a catch basin. I guess to really oversimplify it, it's a catch basin that kind of cleans everything out and makes sure it removes all those suspended solids. So the suggestion that we've gone back and forth with Beta is basically if we just add a second first defense unit in the drainage system, that would then get us over the 80%. We would certainly do that. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon and the clock just expired, Madam Chair. We just didn't have time to do it, but that's all it's going to take is just adding that second first defense treatment unit within the drainage facility. That'll get us over the 80%. So we would agree with the comments. We would love to be able to have the commission vote to approve it, subject to us getting those revised plans to Beta and having their final blessing before you folks actually issue the signed order of conditions. But to be honest with you, that waiting another 30 days for that item, and then you've got to sign the order of conditions, it really puts us up against the unfortunately the construction season and the reality that summer's almost over and we're looking at November and December pretty quickly here. So it's really it's really vitally important to the facility that we can get things moving and get construction going in the near future. So we would certainly ask for the commission's consideration on that end, Madam Chair.
Is there any way to test for total suspended solids at the effluent, at the end when it comes out? Is there any way to evaluate?
I think mainly with, I think with your eyeballs, Madam Chair, in the old days before we had these, basically what it is, it's in the paved surfaces. It's just a way to catch not only the sand that is spread, throughout the winter season, but also any fluids that come out of your vehicle. So if you have an oil, you're dripping oil, you're dripping antifreeze, these catch basins by themselves catch a lot of it. But now these treatment units are just an added safety net. And then in addition to that, you have the sediment forebay, which part of our O&M plan, our operation and maintenance, those sediment forebays have to be cleaned periodically. So literally somebody's going to get in there with a shovel and clean out all the dirt and silt that goes in there to continue to make sure that the water that does eventually spill into the pond is just about as clean as can be. So that's, if everything's working properly, working as designed, and if it's maintained properly, which they definitely do at the VA, they've got a maintenance manual that, not surprisingly from the government, would choke you, and they're pretty strict about following it. So they definitely maintain things to the T in these facilities. So it'll work. The water that comes out of that sediment forebay, Madam Chair, will be I don't know if it's drinkable, but it'll be pretty clean.
Yeah, my concern wouldn't necessarily be like the sands and things. I would be more concerned, I think, of any organics or anything that would have spilled over from the gas tanks.
Yep, exactly. In the fueling station itself, there's a large containment pot within that fueling station. There's spill kits and everything like that. So there's almost no chance at all of any leaked fuel to get into the drainage system at all. It's almost impossible, certainly with a smaller one, but even with your bigger gas stations, the way they're constructed now with all the safety mechanisms, it's almost impossible to have anything bad happen to the resource areas.
Commissioners, Peggy, I see your hand up. Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. I wrote my questions down so I wouldn't forget them. To be just really simple, Scott.
Yes.
The placement of the fueling center, why couldn't it be moved closer to, say, Beacon Road? That's my first question.
Yeah, the main reason is the trucks need room to make this turn right here. So if we push it up the page, say to the middle of this island, they won't have enough room to make that turn. So it's really to get the fueling trucks, the big 18 wheelers that you see driving all over the highway. It's to be able to get them in and out. The VA facility themselves, they're not driving around with those big 18 wheelers, but the fueling trucks would have it. So the weekly delivery, we've got to be able to get those trucks in safely. And that's the only way. We need that much bigger island than we would like to have. And frankly, our original design was a lot smaller than this, but we just couldn't make the turn and radius for the truck. So the work area just kept getting bigger. There's more pavement, more interruption into your buffer zone, and certainly a greater expense. So we wouldn't, we don't want to do it, but we have no choice.
And then my second question is this open to the public?
No.
No, okay.
No, it's not.
And how do you put in the fuel tanks? What kind of safety mechanisms for leakage, fire, accidents like that?
They're all above ground. Not they're all. The fuel tank is above ground. It's a 1,500 gallon dual compartment fuel tank. It needs to be permitted by DEP to have that fuel tank on site and to have it in operation. So there's they're lined fuel tanks. As I said, there's a containment area that I've kind of got hatched in here on the pad that would contain more than 1,500 gallons of fuel. So even if there was a rupture or a fuel spill of the entire 1,500 gallons, it would be contained within this area. In addition to the spill kits and other alarms and safety mechanisms that the industry requires.
Thank you, Peggy.
I think that's all my questions for now. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission?
Yeah.
Scott, I think we're finished with your map, I think.
Wait.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ruby has a question.
Do you need the map, Ruby?
No, my question's around the EPA. Do they follow up, Scott, since it's a federal property? Is the EPA involved in that process as well?
The EPA is not. They do have, you know, all of their operation and maintenance, agreements and their, you know, their inspection, recommendations. That all does go through the EPA, but, so they're essentially notified, but they don't have a direct approval line on this type of a project.
And does Boston have the same facility? Does Boston
Yes.
have fuel and trucks? Okay, all right,
Just
so it's
about-
been done.
Yeah, like I said, even on this site, if you go further to the back, there's a big water tank that you can see from West Chestnut Street and even from Belmont Street. If you go back towards that water tank, there's existing tanks there now that have been there for 50 years. So this is a more modern system. Once this gets installed, they'll be looking to come to you folks to decommission those and get those out of service. So it's all the VA facilities have it. This one does already. They're just looking to modernize the whole
Enhance it.
system. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
But those
Okay.
older ones are not in areas of concern, near resource areas, is that correct? It's a higher area?
The older ones are closer to the resource area than this one is, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll be happy to get rid of them.
Well, speaking of DEP, isn't there something like a DEP rider or something? Or is anyone that with DEP that would need to evaluate this just because it's a wetlands standard, but I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? Eric, I mean Kyle, rather.
Are you talking about the circuit rider?
Circuit rider, yeah.
Yeah, I think the DEP kind of a approval process is wrapped in with, you know, when you submit the NOI and you get a DEP file number, typically if there's additional concerns beyond the traditional Wetlands Protection Act kind of filing requirements, usually they'll provide it there in a technical comment and or otherwise reach out, which I don't believe, I know this process started sometime last year. I don't believe there was any
Right,
technical comments or anything.
right. There was none.
Okay, so my understanding was that circuit rider is if you have a question about the standards, is that correct? Then they'll clarify that, or?
More or less a question, usually just generally anything Wetlands Protection Act related. And whether it's interpretation of regulations, applicability of certain regulations to situations. Yep.
Okay. Mission.
Madam Chair, I see a hand raised from the public.
Sam Andren?
Yeah, would you like me to promote him? Oh,
Absolutely.
hands down. I guess that may have been an accident. Sam, if you do have a comment, please raise your hand again.
I think Sam was from the last meeting.
Yeah. Commissioners? So I think we have one of two things that we can do, right? We can close the hearing and go along with making sure that the order of, do we have a final order of conditions?
No, this one, we haven't had an order of conditions issued on this one yet.
So yes, Madam Chair, there are two options. You can either vote to continue until to next month. The applicant can finalize those plans, or we can vote to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions pending that revision of plans that Scott says he can turn around pretty quickly. That will then be verified by Beta. And then once that's verified, then we can go ahead and issue the order of conditions. So that's kind of the two options that we're talking about.
Do we have a copy of the order of conditions right now with any special conditions?
No, that would be written after the fact. Though that said, there are some special conditions that Elise has forwarded to me, so I can read those off now.
Yeah. Commissioners, I don't know how you feel. Would you feel okay if we were to just get that finalized plan with the second security blanket of a second filter system, and then we could have a hard copy of the final special conditions and everything to evaluate, and just tie it all up next month? Would that be appropriate, or is that overkill?
I'd rather go along with what Kyle suggested, provide the waiver, let them go through beta, that whole thing.
I agree.
What Kyle suggested, the second one, like, because I think another 30 days, as they said, is gonna hold up
Okay.
moving things along. So I don't think we need to really hold things up if this is the
Thank you.
only contingent issue that we're having. I think we've addressed all, I mean, this has been going on for quite some time. So
It
if we
certainly has.
finally got down to the final, we had 50 items, we're down to one. I think we can feel comfortable that they will adhere to the final recommendations that need to be made.
Thank you.
Then Elise, would you mind just reading over quickly what the special conditions are? Do you have them there?
Yeah, I'll let Kyle read them out. They were essentially just the special suggested special conditions that came up in Beta's peer review letter, throughout different comments. So it just kind of compiled into one place. There is nothing particularly out of the ordinary for a project like this, given the different parts. But I'll let Kyle take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Elise. So it would be the standard conditions, then the following special conditions outlined by Beta, and I'm going to read those off now.
Thank you.
Excuse me. The completed signed SWPPP shall be submitted to the commission prior to the pre-construction meeting and start of work. A signed copy of the operation and maintenance plan shall be submitted to the commission prior to the pre-construction meeting and start of work. A completed and signed illicit discharge statement shall be submitted to the commission prior to the pre-construction meeting and start of work. A copy of the spill control program shall be submitted to the commission prior to occupancy. No vehicle washing at the fuel station shall occur. So those are the 5 special conditions.
And should we add a 6th special condition about adding that extra little, what was that filter thing called?
Well, that would occur before we issue the order of conditions.
Right.
And that would be verified by Beta.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, how do you feel? You feel okay with that?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm okay
I
with
would
that.
agree.
Sharifa?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, then I would think that we would move to close the hearing. Correct?
Correct.
I entertain a motion to close the hearing. What is the address again? 940 Belmont for the fueling station?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 940 Belmont Street.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to close the hearing for 940 Belmont State Fueling Station.
Equal eye.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. So the motion carries. The next motion would be, boy, here we go. It would be to issue,
To issue an order of conditions with the standard conditions and then the special conditions outlined by Agent Wolf.
right, and
Pending.
pending
Receival.
verification.
Thank you, Elise, and pending the
Verification.
confirmation.
Right.
Elise, why don't you do the verbiage, Elise?
Yeah. It would be to issue an order of conditions with standard conditions and the special conditions as outlined by the agent, pending the receipt of revised plans and calculations demonstrating the meeting of the TSS 80% standard, more or less.
Okay, and to be verified by Beta.
Yes, yep.
Okay. Okay, who wants to make that motion?
You can give it a
Okay.
shot. You want to, Peggy?
Wow.
It's a long
I
one.
think I've written everything down,
Okay.
but I'll see if I can get it all in there. I make a motion to issue an order of conditions based on the standards and special conditions and the receipt of plans for TSS 80%. Did I get it all?
Yeah.
Okay,
My second.
That motion has been made and seconded. It's a roll call vote, please.
Beekler, aye.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Boris, aye.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience, folks. Have a good night.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate adjusting the schedule, the agenda, Madam Chair.
Oh, that's quite all right. It was a very good point. And
Thank
this
you
is
very much.
very nice. Thank you.
See you soon. Have a good night.
Okay. Let's see. Next. Mhm. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, I believe 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 were all continued, correct?
That is correct.
But I believe Elise, you were going to be speaking briefly to 7 and 8. Was that correct?
I can provide just a very brief update. It won't be any real discussion, but just as far as where the review is at. For 549 Copeland, Beta is going to be going out in the field with the applicant and their botanist to review the delineation per the updated letter. For 710 Oak Street, Beta is working with the applicant to set up a meeting to discuss the letter and kind of go from there. And
At least you know when, will it be before the next meeting that Beta will be reviewing the Copeland Street?
Yeah, it'll be before the next meeting. How, depending on the results of those meetings, I'm not sure what will be what item we might have or the applicant might have to present. I'm not sure where that'll be, but it will be occurring before the next meeting.
Okay, for both of those, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And, okay, 710 Oak was the car wash, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then the other one was 455 Oak Street, I think, the
yes
amended order of conditions and the enforcement order. Kyle, were you going to speak to that?
Yeah, I certainly can. We are kind of we need to kind of get a new touchstone. We've kind of been talking past one another, waiting on the applicant's been waiting on Beta. The Beta has been waiting on the applicant for certain things. There's been some miscommunication. So we just need to meet again and make sure everyone's on the same page, and then move forward with that. So that's we're planning on doing that. And then I've spoken to the applicant, and we're going to have them come to the next meeting regardless of where the status is, just to give the commission kind of a new fresh update from their point of view as to where things stand. But we will be working with Beta to kind of organize this behind the scenes, and hopefully we'll be able to get this moving again.
Yeah. Yep.
So commissioners, that's the Fullercraft Museum.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So any questions at all, commissioners? There's no, it's just for information only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next item on the agenda would be violation discussions, number 12 at 115 Goldfinch Drive.
Yeah, and I've got an update for the commission for this matter. I don't see anyone in the attendees. I don't know that anyone's here to speak to this tonight. We left this 2 months ago. We gave the property owner 60 days to get together the notice of intent. We had a 30-day mark where we wanted the updated wetland delineation, and then 60 days to file the notice of intent. The notice of intent was filed yesterday. So this will be reviewed at the September 20th meeting.
Okay. And that was yesterday. So it was, okay, but no one is here to discuss it yet.
That's correct.
All right, so that will be a full discussion next month. Okay. So you feel comfortable enough not having to worry about an enforcement order then, since that actually was filed in time?
Yeah, because they filed notice of intent. Yep.
Commissioners, you okay with that? Okay, thank you. The next one is an enforcement order at 803 Crescent Street. Kyle?
Yep, and I have an update for this as well. I've spoken to Mr. Silva, the property owner. He requested an extension last month for 60 days, and the commission wanted to have an update at 30 days to see where his progress was. So he's actually continued, and he's contracted out J.K. Holmgren to do the work. I will be working with Mr. Silva to file the notice of intent. But so he is actively working with Mr. Faria, who was just here. I spoke to Mr. Faria about this actually earlier today. So he's aware, and they are moving forward with that plan. So that will hopefully be a new filing next month.
Good. Good, thank you. The next one would be an enforcement order at 0 Lawton Avenue.
Very similar story here. I have an update. The applicant is not here, but because I've been in communication with them. So Mr. Lopez is the property owner here. He has been working with me over the last month or two to kind of figure out where the water on the site's coming from. That's the big concern. We had some reports from some abutting neighbors of some flooding that occurred on their properties after the fill was added. This is obviously what we were concerned about. So Mr. Lopez is contracting out an environmental engineer to work on identifying where that water source is coming from. He's also been in communication with Mr. Faria, with J.K. Holmgren, to do the engineering and the site design once they identify where that water is coming from. So they're on pace to kind of develop a plan. Once they have to identify where that water is coming from, though. So that's kind of what they're working on now.
Okay. And was this the one that's an amended order because of the name difference?
Oh, yes, the fair point, Joyce. Thank you. So the last month, the commission voted to issue an amended order of conditions with language requesting or requiring that the resource areas be delineated, and they wanted that language to be included in the order. Upon review, that language was already kind of in place in the order. So I spoke to Elise and we kind of decided that we wouldn't need to issue the amended order of conditions for that reason. However, the original order was issued to the previous property owner. So I did end up sending out an amended order of conditions, an amended enforcement order for this property, but addressed to the current property owner. So I guess do we need to take a vote to ratify the amended enforcement order with the name change?
I would, I know it's a minor thing, but I think it wouldn't hurt to ratify it, to be representative of that is the most recent commission approved enforcement order.
And it was Mr. Lopes, is that correct? Is that what?
Yeah, his name is Edson Lopez.
Edson. Okay. Okay. So then, commissioners, I would entertain a motion then to amend the enforcement order for 0 Lawton Avenue to reflect the owner, Mr. Edson Lopez, and then the rest is going to be maintained, right? It will be the same wording in the enforcement order. So I would entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the enforcement order to reflect the new owner's name.
Second.
So the motion has been made and seconded to amend the enforcement order for 0 Lawton Avenue to reflect the current owner's name. Roll call vote.
Eagle eye.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Matt, I.
Forrest, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. 57 River Street, another enforcement order.
Yes. And there is someone here to speak to this, but I'll just give a quick refresher if that's okay to the commission.
No, please do. Please do. Thank you.
So this is 57 River Street. This came before the commission last month. There was some fill that was observed in the backyard of this property. I issued an enforcement order. It must have been sometime in July before the meeting, and asking the property owner to appear at the July meeting. They did not attend the July meeting. So the commission suggested that because this property had another enforcement order issued in 2020 by Agent Shave with no response there too, the commission requested that the agent reach out with some letters in different languages just to see if there was a language barrier. In any case, that was done, and the property owner is here tonight to kind of speak to this. So I'm going to promote Bruce Cardoso.
Thank you.
All right, Bruce, I've promoted you to panelist. You're able to speak. He didn't raise his hand, but it looks like he just
Hey.
unmuted, so.
Hey, good evening, Commissioner.
Hi. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the field that was put in the yard, when we first received the notice, we did acknowledge the notice, and then we seized everything that we was putting back there, and we actually removed some stuff like tree logs, tree branches, and stuff like that. And then my father, he's the one that's actually putting more stuff now, things like gravel and dirt. But I did tell him to stop doing that. And I did speak to Kyle, and he did told me about the requirements that's needed to, get the wetlands back to its normal state. I guess I'm gonna be talking to him, and supposed to hire a scientist to, see the land and what can we do. So I'm just here to acknowledge the notice and move forward with it.
Okay, thank you, Bruce, very much. Good.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you own the property all the way up to the river?
Yep.
Thank you. So we will see you maybe next month with some, have you gotten in touch with anyone as far as an environmental scientist?
No, I haven't. I need some guidance because I really don't know anyone right now. So if I can, like I said, I'll be in contact with Kyle. I'll shoot him an email anytime soon, and we can move forward with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Bruce, that's fine. You can either give me a call like you did before, or you can just email me as well, and we can communicate either way. I can kind of help you, guide you through that process of getting in contact and hiring a professional to kind of at least get the process started. And the first step, just to reiterate, is to get a professional out there who can identify the resource areas. So then we can move forward with a plan to kind of remediate the area back there.
Sure, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too.
And the last enforcement order is 19 Otis Street.
Yep, that's correct. And we have someone here to speak to that as well. So just a quick summary here. This enforcement order was originally issued in April. So it's been 4 months. There's been some language difficulties and some back and forth. So I sent out a follow-up letter here to the homeowner requesting that they come with something this month, because we've kind of gone over the requirements, like the initial first step on multiple occasions, and nothing's occurred yet. So we're here to hear from Mr. Resende.
You'll be promoting him?
Yeah, I've just promoted him.
Hi, Mr. Resende, could you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, this is Resende's sister. I'm here to speak on his behalf because of the language barrier.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we received a letter that he needs to hire a scientist, and he needs help with that because he does not have any guidance of how to hire a scientist. So that's new to him, so there needs to be some guidance on how to move forward.
Kyle?
I would just remind the commission that we reviewed this last month, this exact item.
Mhm. I wonder if it's possible for us to get a list of local environmental scientists that would be able to be distributed, but you did discuss this with Mr. Resende last month, right?
Nope. Yeah, at the meeting last month, we spoke to how to go about this.
It's the process of hiring a scientist that's been difficulty, that has been having a lot of difficulty of finding somebody. And that's the issue. And financial issue too, to find somebody within the budget for the scientist.
Mr. Resende, it's difficult because the area that you built upon was beyond the limits of your property boundary anyway. And it was a delicate area. And it really does need to be repaired.
And he's saying if he can demolish the everything that he has done.
Well, it's got to be done very carefully to make sure that there's no damage that's done to the area, to that resource area when the work is being done. So it's got to be done under the review of a scientist, under a wetland scientist. They know exactly what needs to be done to repair what was changed, and it needs to be changed back as well as possible to what was there. But it's not something that can just be, you can just go out and rip up boards.
Okay. Essa conclusão que eu tive da bata o quebra você não tem que dar para o cientista para mostrar exatamente o que está quebrado.
Ok,
O que damage.
para o problema será que aquela que é tudo que da raia mantém por esse dinheiro, mas amigo não se que dinheiro vão para o.
He's just saying that without however many scientists he has to hire, he does not have the funds to hire all the scientists that he might need for the demolition process.
I think right now, all we need to see is that some action is being taken. And that a scientist has been hired to evaluate the site and to see exactly what needs to be done. That would be the first step.
Okay.
It wouldn't be to go out and do the work themselves right now. It would just be to get someone out there to do a full to do an evaluation of the site. Is that correct, Kyle? I mean,
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, any action here would be something, right? Even if it was just, hey, we've contacted someone, but we haven't received anything over the last 4 months. So that's kind of.
Okay, then is there any possible chance to give more time to find somebody to take that first step and find somebody with guidance, because he does not have any guidance at this point for a scientist.
Kyle, are there any lists, or are there any lists at all of environmental scientists that are used frequently in the area?
So I don't feel comfortable providing a list because we don't want to appear to be having favorites that we send business to. That's inappropriate. So what the applicant needs to do is to just search environmental scientist or wetland scientist, environmental engineer on Google, and type in Brockton, Massachusetts, and it'll just like when you're ordering pizza, it'll spit out things that are relevant that are nearby. So the applicant will need to do that themselves, rather than having me tell them who they need to hire.
Okay.
Does Mr. Resende have a list of everything that he needs to, get from the wetland scientist? He could just use the enforcement order itself.
Yeah, all that language is in the enforcement order, the original enforcement order, yes. And if they need another copy, they can let me know and I can send that out.
Yeah, can you send a copy of that, please?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other suggestion I just have, sometimes this helps in the community. I don't know if anyone of you goes to like a local community center or in Brockton or like a church, if you start to ask for some assistance and guidance, you might be able to find people within your community that would be able to assist with the language barrier that you're experiencing. I understand it's intimidating and very difficult to do something like this when you have no idea what you're even asking for. So when we send the letter this time, if you as the sister could maybe look at some of the local resources that you already know in Brockton as communities that, you know, just asking a general question, they might be able to say they know somebody. A lot of times in Brockton that helps. People will be, you'll be surprised when people know people is what I'm trying to suggest. So I know that we make it sound easy that you just go to Google, but there's other ways, especially if you have some friends or something, maybe even at work, you could ask. That could be helpful, because I'm sure you want to have somebody who can articulate in your original language that you're using, so that way you have a full understanding. So if you could assist your brother like that, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Só que gostaria de alguém que tem licença de construção, tem direito?
Não, o Ministério tem que mostrar o processo, mostrar da iniciativa. Ainda porque não há ninguém para vender o carro para uma conta com dano.
Ok, que primeiro alguém de jogo para ver usar alguém que tem licença de construção.
Não, sim, é cientista de coisa de construção, yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to translate. He was asking me like a specific, if the first step he needs to do is to hire somebody from the construction site that knows a way to demolish everything within. And I was telling him he needs a scientist to tell him exactly how to demolish things. That's the first step.
Exactly. Thank you.
O que eu ficar lá que usa pode de estresse, por fazer lá. Por mas entende?
He's just saying that he's stressed out because with the whole situation.
I know. It was too bad. I mean, if he wanted to build anything on his own property that close to the river, he would have had to come in front of the Conservation Commission to get permitted to do that. And since he didn't do that, now he has to undo it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foi como nunca fazer para mim, porque estou a fazer aquele trabalho lá perto de onde cidade, não tem que ir.
A gasolina que quebrar, me quer seguinte que isso são os galés.
All right. We'll reach out to some people, we'll find some research and see what we can do.
Okay. I don't know if you can put your email contact in the chat?
Whose email, my brother or mine?
Yourself is fine. That's fine.
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I believe that's it for the evening. I entertain a motion then. Jocelyn, thank you so much. And also Maria, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I entertain a motion then. It is now what, 8:29 p.m. Entertain a motion to end this meeting.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the meeting. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Map I.
And Boris, aye. Commissioners, if you could hang on just for a moment after we stop the recording, just to discuss with Kyle possibilities for the October meeting. Is that okay, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to end the recording though. I can figure it out. All right, so the
I think I
meeting's
know how
closed. I'm
to.
gonna go ahead and try to end this. Found it.